This is part B of question 23 from the 2015 paper. Now, this wasn't poorly answered or anything, but I thought it would be good to go through as revision. So the question says, the subroutine char tally, bracket, string char count, counts the number of times a character, char, which is the variable, right, for character, appears in a string and returns the result in count. So if you watched my video on explaining question 20 of this same paper, we can see that it's a similar structure where this is the function or subroutine that accepts two parameters, and then the last parameter actually is being used as a return parameter, and it's called count. So this is saying when you run char tally, you give it a string. So let's say, I don't know, I'll give it wonderful, okay? The word wonderful. And then the char, the character I want it to count is, let's say, E, okay? Then once char tally runs, it's going to count how many times E occurs in the word wonderful, because I gave it the word wonderful. And in this case, count will contain the number 1 because E only appears once in that word. So that's that sentence, and I'm going to keep going to the next sentence. A one-dimensional array called students contains 20 names. So we now have a student array. So if I just try to show what students array might look like. So I might have Sally, John, Eric. Okay, so and then I have blah, 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 blah. I have 20 names. Write an algorithm to count the total number of times that the lowercase letter f appears in the array students. Well, let's add a name with f in there. Lowercase, Jeff. Yeah, got there. Okay. And Steph. Okay, all right, cool. So we need to write an algorithm to count how many times that the lowercase letter f appears in the student's array. So if this were my array and I had then, the rest of mine were blank, 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 whatever, then it should count as 1, 2, 3. All right. So I need to use the subroutine char tally in my algorithm. So we're not writing what char tally contains, right? We are actually writing a function that is going to call char tally. So I don't know, I'm just going to start with begin. Count students. And maybe I'm going to get the students array. So you got to think about this. How is the students array being obtained? Maybe it's going to be passed. So I'm just going to pretend I'm getting the students array. I don't need to stuff around with it here. So now I want to basically say, okay, so really, I think the idea is this. Look at the first thing. Get the first name. Then I need to call char tally with that first name, or with that name. Give it the letter F, and ask it to do its magic to return how many times the letter F appears in that particular element. So in that case, it'll be 0, okay? Now remember, I'm counting the total number of times, because if let's say this was, so let's say we got up to here, it returned count 2, then when it gets to the next name, it'll return count 1. I don't want to keep overriding that count. I need to keep a running total of how many times, right? So I might just initialize my times to be here, equals 0. I don't know why I indented so much. I'm wasting space. I should have just indented here. But anyway, then let's do that. After that, now it says contains 20 names, but sometimes we know in pseudocode we can say number of items in array, right? So I can just go for I equals 1, 2, num items in students. Okay, then I'm going to say, right, call me char tally, and I want to underline that. And the string I want to pass it is the first, or the ith element. So students, I. Okay, that's going to give me pass, if I is 1, it's going to give Sally. And the char I'm looking for is F. And the count is being returned. So I need to actually put that in as well. Okay? But not as a value, like not as a string, it's just a variable. Because then I can check here, okay, something. Remember how I have my running total here? So I can just add count to times. So I go times equals. Now if I said times equals count, it will keep overriding. So I don't want that to happen. I want to say whatever times is, imagine, you know, we have a container, right? In here we have, let's say we said times equals count. It's going to put that value in, let's say 0. Okay, imagine Jeff is the first one. So we say 2. Then when I go and run the next thing, and let's say the next number, the next name had another F, I want to hold on to 2 and add 1 to it. So I don't want to just replace this container. I want to say whatever it is in there, I'm going to plus. I don't want to plus 1. I'm not adding 1 each time. I'm adding count. Whatever count, whatever char tally returned in count, I'm going to add it to my times variable, my times counter. So that would then keep track of how many times it found F for every single name, because it's going to reach the end. Count number times in lowercase, blah, 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 blah. Use the search. Okay, I think that should be right. Then I need to finish off my loop. Next, and then I need to display it, do I? Yeah, I should display it. I mean, you know, even though they don't tell you to display, just do it. Times. If you want it to also, if you have time, you can say F appears, and then you go times. If you wanted to make it nice and informative for your user. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful.